Hi, how's it going? For our application that we are working on, we decided to implement the blockchain technology into the election process. And through that, we are focusing on absentee and overseas ballots. So what our application entails is it would be a desktop or mobile application that you would download and enter your personal information, including your voter registration numbers. And through this, it would be linked to the blockchain. And through the blockchain technology, this would allow the votes to be counted at a much faster rate. And since blockchain technology is immutable, it allows less opportunity for the data to be tampered with and hacked. And so essentially what would happen is someone who was overseas or mail-in voting or absentee would download the app and be able to vote just from their house or wherever they are. And this would allow the process of voting to be much faster and much more efficient compared to the current mail-in voting process that we have. This also we were planning on having it run initially in absentee locations, and then since it was a desktop application, it could be implemented further in in-person voting locations and other implementations along the election process, because we think that the blockchain technology kind of in its nature seems very beneficial for the voting sector. So with that little background, what is your current knowledge of the blockchain ecosystem, not just in the voting sector, but kind of in general in the cryptocurrency area?
I run an investment firm. We've been very active in the blockchain market and cryptocurrency, both trading and in sponsoring and underwriting financings for blockchain companies in a bunch of different applications. I'm familiar with the basic outline of the blockchain and how it works and how it secures information and creates a proprietary ledger. It seems like certainly a good application for the technology, given some of the issues about creating a record and security and one vote per person, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think like the double spending problem that the blockchain has solved with some of the cryptocurrencies could be applied to the voting ecosystem. So kind of just some general election questions. How has the election process changed throughout your life since you were first eligible to vote? How has the process changed with implementations of new technologies or other changes?
That's interesting. I would say it hasn't changed a whole lot. It's been at least the way that I've interacted with voting. It's always been through going to a physical location, presenting myself and voting in a booth on paper that is then submitted into a box and then theoretically, I guess, counted or tabulated from there. I have voted absentee. That absentee process has been exactly the same. I've gone to town hall and filled out a form and put it in a sealed envelope and signed it and followed the right requirements and provided that. And theoretically it was the same process, but just in a different venue. So very manual and not a lot has changed over the my 30 or 40 years of voting.
Mm-hmm. So you think that the reason that a lot of it hasn't changed is just kind of a lack of trust in some new technologies, especially with elections that are meant to be so highly secure and trusted and so important to democracies?
Yes, I think there is a lot of, changing things is always hard. I also think there's a lot of fear of technology and the internet and hacking and, the ability to um, secure and maintain records and collect records without manipulation from some sort of outside source in implementing, some sort of technology solution that would work consistently and not be corrupted at some point in the process.
Yeah, so going off of that, um, if you had to make a choice, I know you said you traditionally have voted in person, voting like by mail or through a mobile application, would you have more trust in one system or the other?
Um, I would I have more trust in one or the other?
Yeah.
I would just have to I'd have to understand the app to have trust in it for sure. I mean, I think people generally have more trust in what they're used to. So, changing something, there would have to be some validation that was going to work. My vote was going to get counted, et cetera. So, I think there's always skepticism without more information.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's one of the big reasons when we were doing our research on the stakeholders, one of the key stakeholders is like the election authority or the government, whoever's running the election. And we determined one of the key things that they focus on would be kind of education on the election process.
Yeah, I think if you went with an app, people would have to understand how that worked, how secure it was,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, a big
some sort of
barrier.
guarantee of why, how they're going to be voted and how do they confirm that they've been voted, that they voted accurately and correctly, et cetera.
Mhm. What do you see as a current weakness in the voting system right now?
I think the manual nature and, the whole structure that it's set up in is obviously, antiquate, it's out of date with technology for sure. And obviously, potentially subject to manipulation given its structure.
Mhm. And then kind of the second part of that question, what would you see as a current strength that the voting system has?
I think that despite what I just said, I think the way voting has happened and the processes and the rigor around the system and the fact that it's been there for a long time, has created subvert. And that doesn't mean it necessarily doesn't get diverted a little bit, but in mass, over a long period of time, it's delivered a consistent vote that's been recounted. That's very accurate given the size of what's being accomplished there.
Yeah, so from what you've been saying, it seems so like there's a lot of trust in the election process right now. So maybe
I would say I think the actual results are good. I think all the focus on it over the last couple of years has created a lot less trust in the process, even though I think it is probably fairly secure and accurate.
Mhm. Yeah, so that kind of leads me to think about the question is if due to kind of the high level of trust, but kind of over the past couple of years of kind of the deteriorating trust, maybe an implementation of a new technology could kind of raise that lack of trust initially, which would be a big problem. So it seems like this application that we're focusing on would seem to have a very slow implementation.
Yeah, I think the blockchain seems like a very good, from what I understand about it, a very good solution for this. It would, it would, I think there would have to be a lot of education of why it's such a good solution for people to understand it, because I don't think it's broadly understood in the population. So, but I do think that it could be a very good solution to create a more technology-driven solution rather than the current system.
Yeah, perhaps years down the road. So let me see if I have any other questions. I feel like we've covered a lot of them. Do you have any other questions on how we were on the application?
How would you, in your app, how would you control for or deliver the front end, subscription? How would you ensure that I voted versus someone else using my app voted? Or have you thought through that piece of the equation?
There are actually some applications that use voting applications that use blockchain technology for this. And so what they have been doing is using like the biometric data in that your phone, or the biometric scanners that your phones can use. So like the Face ID or the fingerprint scanner, and kind of have that like there would be an additional identification step with the government agency, kind of linking your biometrics to your identity.
Good idea. Yeah, that'd be great.
There's a lot of other kind of decentralized identity companies that have been out there that we could partner with to ensure that, yes, you're the one who's voting and someone didn't just take your phone out of your hand.
Great. Good idea.
Yeah. So I think that's about all we have. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights. And I think these will be really helpful as you're one of the key stakeholders in the election.
Great. Thanks for your thoughts.
Awesome. Thank you.